Hi, guys, and welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. This is Nadine. We have a special guest for you today. Her name is, oh my gosh, Kristen. Kristin Hetzer. It's right there in front of me. You see, I'm having those moments already. But I wanted to kind of, talk about our season here before we get started. We finally made it to season 6. We have a bunch of guest speakers coming, and it's going to be wonderful. We added a new feature to the website also where you can call in and leave Kristen a message about her companies and what she does. But we also have Life on Records telephone number. If you wanted to call, there is 833-780-HOPE, which equals to 4673, I believe. But definitely, one of my favorite quotes is being in control of your money means being in control of your life. And that's kind of what's going to feed into today's episode as well. But before we get started with Kristen, I have a question for you, Kristen. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, how many special events or weddings have you been to in the past 15 years?
I would say a good guess is about once a year, so 15.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, usually when you go into like a ceremony, what is it there that they have you sign?
The guest book.
Yes, right on. So, Life on Record came up with this new concept, and it's really cool. They put a vintage rotary phone there, so your guests can actually pick it up and leave a message. It could be a 1 minute, a 5 minute, or a 35 minute, 30 minute message. But don't worry, they have a QR code right next to it that they can scan and do it from their own cell phone. So they can do it before or after the event is over. And what they do is take a collection of all those recordings and they'll burn it on a 12-inch vinyl record, or they put it on this cute little boom box. So you can reflect on people's voices saying congratulations. Now, the couple gets this phone line for 1 year. And I always say, you know what, right before the 1 year anniversary, call again and wish them a happy anniversary to add on. But plans only start at $99. And I think that's a great deal. Would you use that vintage phone as a guest book?
It sounds really innovative and fresh. So I think it sounds like a great idea.
That's awesome. Well, you can check them out at www.lifeonrecord.com. All right, Kristen. Well, welcome to Keep Hope Alive. And you've done so much in your life. I mean, you are like the master of financial industry. And you started, I guess, back in 1980s, what, 1982 or something?
Right. Yeah, I started
Awesome.
in 82. Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, being in the financial industry, what positions have you actually covered and worked your way up to? And what makes you you, is I guess the right question.
Well, I started back in the early 80s, and anyone that was around at that time may remember that the prime interest rate was as high as 21%. So the stock market was very much out of favor. The bond market was terrible. So it was a very interesting time. At that time, very few women were in the industry. And I started my career at Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith at the time. Went to Kidder Peabody as a vice president, and then I went over to Prudential Beige, where I became an assistant branch manager, as well as an investment manager for a discretionary investment manager for my clients' accounts. And that was really what I wanted to continue to build my career as a money manager. And I did during this time get my certified financial planner certification, and I did eventually become a chartered market technician. So I do have a passion for looking at financial markets and studying them and looking at history. And from there, I knew I had in my heart that I wanted my own business. So I finally established my own business, Royal Palms Capital, in 2005. And that's where I've been ever since. And I currently manage client assets and have fifth generation clients.
Oh, wow. Girl, you've done it all. Isn't it the best feeling when you can start your own company and go running and just see what you can get and everything? It gives you that push in life, which I love. So yeah, to that, and time flies, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I cannot believe we're coming into 2024. It's amazing.
I know. For me, I'm 45, but I feel like ever since I hit the age of 40, I just watch time fly by so fast. I'm like, I want to go back to being the little girl who's waiting for Christmas to come and it's taken forever. But yeah, definitely. Now, in all this time with all your financial journeys that you've gone to, I mean, you were in college back in the day. What was the main course of study that you did?
Well, during college, I did a lot of study in the sciences. I grew up, my father was a doctor, and I grew up on a farm. So I really had very little exposure to the business world. And I did go to a liberal arts college, which I was in pre-medical science throughout my um, years there. But then because it was liberal arts, you're required to take financial courses, which I had put off till my senior year. And when I finally started taking them, I go, wow, this is so interesting. And I really developed a passion, and my initial career was in the pharmaceutical industry, but I came across some friends that were very interested in the stock market. And I knew that I had to pursue my passion, because when you do that, there's really no limit to what you can do. And so I gave up that very cushy, nice job, and went to went to work in the male dominated financial industry.
I bet that was fun. That's a big change, though.
Yeah, it was definitely. It's all changed now, and now I think there's absolutely more women in the industry. People like dealing with women, and women have a good aptitude to this type of business. So and we've been through since 1982, as I mentioned, when the stock market was very low and interest rates were very high. We've had the 1987 stock market crash. You had the savings and loans fallout in the early 1990s. You had the 2000 dot-com bust. You had the 2008 financial collapse. So there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last 40 years. And now here we are with interest rates moving up from an historical low point, and the market, of course, is at historically high levels. So it's a very interesting time to be in the market.
Oh, yes. And I've heard from one person who's in real estate that it's not going to get much better. So, I mean, it's those things, I'm not one to watch the news all the time, but I do hear it from other people. And I always say that's my news source, and that's all I need. So, but definitely. So, man, growing up on a farm gave you a lot of time. I mean, you probably, as a kid running out there, were you always a go-getter, like even doing jobs on the farm, or like what was your
Yeah, I've had so many jobs. I you know, I of course always work with growing up on a farm, and I was the oldest daughter. And so my mother gave me a lot of jobs to do. She had 6 children.
oh,
And so back then, babysitting was 50 cents an hour. But I became a little janitor for our church. That was really great, that I could make a little money for clothes, and went on to work in a factory. I worked in a doctor's office. I basically put myself through college waitressing and worked for an ambulance company and became an emergency medical technician. So I've done a lot, I've done a lot
You
of
have.
things. And so to bring me
Yeah.
where I am today.
So that's awesome because you did hit every corner. I remember when I was younger, at age 14, I was like, I want to be a wedding planner. And I just took all of these jobs, different ones in the hospitality industry, going into events. It's like I wanted to map out everything I was going to do, but where it led me to today, I can look back and reflect and go, well, I'm happy I have this much knowledge, and it was different things. Like I never thought I would be doing is working as a GM at a rental company. I remember when I went in to get that job, like I didn't even know if they had a job to even get. And I went in there, are you hiring? And they're like, yeah, when can you start? And I'm like, oh, tomorrow. But it was like I learned you either sink or you swim, and I swam. But what happened within that first week, they go, we're going on a family vacation. So it's in your hands at the first week. And I'm like, what? So, but I gotta say that was the best job I ever had. Do you, out of all your jobs, because you've been in the financial, the medical, learning the stuff you did you ever like have something that really stood out for you that you were like, oh, I really love this. I would do this again.
Well, I love my career. I love studying the financial markets. I like working with the people. I really have a passion for it and I'm
Yep.
good at it. And I feel people depend on me and the fact that I have fifth generation clients. So there's a lot of positives. It is stressful. Uh, there's a lot of there is uncertainty, but having the market technician background and the background that I do in analysis, I feel it has given me an edge too. So I am living my dream. I'm living my passion. And I
That's a
enjoy every day. I enjoy getting up. I enjoy going to my office. I enjoy every single day of my work.
Yay. That's the best way to live. So, but in the meantime, doing all of this work, you wrote a book called Valle, Egypt. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey for you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've been in the business a long time, worked with a lot of families and situations. Of course, over the years, you see situations where the family mother or daughter or mother or father die and the children inherit the assets and then there may be problems. And I've seen a lot of that play out over my career. And my mother passed away in 1997. And my mother and father had a very well-defined financial plan. And they had appointed my brother and I as successor trustees. So everything was very well spelled out. The farm had been closed down. My parents were retired. Everything was very settled. And my mother passed away, like I said, in 97 and of cancer. And then my father would spend part of the year out in the desert. We have a little place there that he would stay at. And things started to change. And I noticed that having 5 siblings, there were a couple siblings that were always taking money. And so anyways, I voiced concerns about it. And all of a sudden, this is after I had made my parents a really a small fortune in the recommendations. My father transferred the accounts that I was successor trustee of of these accounts, but he transferred them suddenly, and then we really had a falling out. I was really upset about it. He went tell me. And I just figured, well, this is the way it is. I knew my brother had something to do with it. And I just thought everything's well spelled out. It will all get settled out in the end. My father died approximately 17 years later. And when after I was flying back on the plane and I was given a package only well after the funeral and everything, and basically everything in their financial plan had been changed. And it was there was a lot of shenanigans that had gone on over this period of time. And what they had wanted and what they had specified was no longer the case. And basically the story, it's fairly complicated because this was a plan that was executed over quite a period of time to really extract and finagle assets of land and money into other names. And it's interesting from that standpoint, very complicated. There's a lot of obviously emotionally it was very difficult, but immediately I knew that this was something that I needed to write about because I had dealt with so many people over the years, not necessarily clients, but friends or other people that had told me what had happened when their parents died, that all of a sudden all of the assets went to one child, or things happened that just didn't seem like they were done properly or what the parents wanted. It was just a common recurring story. And when I researched it further, I realized that very few people that go through this kind of situation, they typically just walk away because you have to and don't talk about it. And typically there's no more communication with the siblings or whoever was involved, and because it's too painful. And the statistics were, it's literally less than 5% that maybe even there's virtually no books that are written about it because it's just very painful. It's can be an ugly topic. So what I wanted to do was create a situation where people could read this and then plan so this doesn't happen to their family. And what can they do to plan? How can somebody that's worked their whole life to accumulate an estate, they want their children to share in the estate in whatever way they want them to. And I'm sure no parent would want at the end everything to be changed from what they had stated.
Yeah,
So that in essence is an overview of the story.
well, thank you for writing this down on a book. I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to read this because nobody wants to go through sibling, arguing over, who gets what and stuff. And, to think that, your dad and mom, they had it all lined up and they wrote their wishes and their wants. You hope the kids will definitely honor that. But as I know from other people I've heard, that can definitely get messy at times. So, but if you are having to write this book and help people understand it, it's going to be a lot easier to go through this. And hopefully, people will have more of an open mind. And family is family, so sticking together and having that unity is important as well. But you said you see this all the time, correct?
Well, I've heard, and oh, this story is so common, and any of the listeners, I'm sure they know of people or they have a situation that it's just a very, very common story. And what happens, and the book gets into this, and this whole ordeal helped me to really think back and understand. And what had happened after the death, well, really before the death of my mother, my father had had a stroke. And she really handled a lot of the helping him with decisions and so forth. So he was a physician as his profession, very proud, very private, did not talk a lot. So, but going through this whole ordeal, I went through medical records and realized that he hadn't been able to read since his stroke. So what had happened is when you're an elderly person in this situation and then losing your spouse of 50 years, there are mental things that come into, whether it's dementia, whatever it is, you're not as sharp as you were, and you're able to be manipulated. And this is what happens to many elderly people. They're manipulated. They may be lonely. They may not feel as confident as they were. They may be bullied. There's a lot of different situations that they're put into a situation where they're asked to change documents, they're asked to do certain things, they're asked to give people money that maybe they normally wouldn't do. They're more easily manipulated, I think is really a common knowledge. And so this is what happened in this case, and this is what why documents were changed, and there was attorneys that were unscrupulous, and then of course two siblings that were very much involved in the manipulation. So you really had a plan there. And this is what people really want to watch out and make sure their parents or their elderly loved ones are protected from this type of abuse. And it's not always in the family. It could be from a caregiver, could be from someone else. And it's a very common problem. That's why we're hearing so much about it. And it's so important to be aware of it and understand it and make sure that your loved ones are protected from being in this type of a situation.
Well, yeah, that's a real eye opener, I know, for not only me, but I think other people listening to this too. I never thought about the caretaker, but yeah, that makes sense as well. So, I mean, going over, you know, I was going to ask you definitely about the different kind of abuse. And that's the number one thing is being manipulated. My goodness. And playing sides and playing with words is another thing that, oh no, they said this and that, that can
Yeah.
easily, oh my goodness, I can only imagine. So I know that you help families have a protection estate plan too. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, most people with assets, they'll either have a will or a trust. Trusts are very common, and then they'll appoint successor trustees in the event of their incapacity or their death, and they expect the successor trustees to follow the wishes or what's stated in the trust. And what happened in this situation, and what I've actually witnessed happening elsewhere, like in the case, there was an irrevocable trust that was my mother's. Irrevocable means you can't change it. And then a revocable trust, which was my father's. But what had happened at his death, the irrevocable trust has basically been drained because the trustees were the father and the brother. And the brother was the one that basically confiscated with most of the assets. So basically they were self-dealing. And everything's in retrospect. Well, that's difficult. Who would ever even imagine that? But I would really stress, have someone that you trust and have another third party, if possible, to oversee the situation, because all of these shenanigans were done by two parties, and by the father, who is really not all there, having suffered multiple strokes, and then the brother whose intent was to get a hold of all the assets. And then there was a sister who also participated and was a co-conspirator. So what's really important, and the brother, he never had any financial experience. He wasn't, he was basically lived off my parents' payroll his whole life, and he never really, so he wasn't capable of generating his own income, and here he was the one in charge of everything. And during that time, he removed me from being the successor trustee. I remained, but successor trustee, so I didn't have access to anything until the death of my father. So here I had the financial wherewithal, but yet I was, excluded, which if they had a problem with me, then what would have made sense is just to have a third party oversight. My father had people that were very financially capable that could have, anybody that had oversight over what was going on could see that this was wrong. And this was a case of, just embezzlement of assets over all these years.
Oh my goodness. You've been through a lot, girl. Oh my goodness. Now, I mean, trying to find hope and peace out of going through these struggles, it's, are you able, like, is one able to go through that? How can you find hope when everybody's going at this and trying to get a piece of the pie and having these arguments and stuff? How do you do it?
Well, fortunately, I never planned on I think there are people that plan on an inheritance or live for inheritance. Again, I just say that from experience because I've seen it. And to me, pursue your passion, make your own money. Your parents, what was really distressful after uncovering all this is my father really should have been he would have been well cared for, and he would have had plenty of money in a good home, that he would have been around other professionals that he worked with throughout his lifetime, but the money wasn't there anymore. It had been confiscated. So that's a real tragedy. And I think someone that works their whole life and has accumulated an estate, they should have the benefit of living comfortably the end of their life and not having to worry about their bills or knowing they can't afford to go into nursing care. So there's a lot of psychological issues involved, but I think the bottom line, to me, my purpose was hopefully to write this book to help others, and that really is my intent. If I can do that, then that's a tremendous positive contribution. So I think I look back, I learned a lot. It is a sad story, but there is hope because there are ways to prevent it. And I already have put this book in hands of friends and family who have told me that they've used the tools that I outlined, and they feel really good about their estate because they feel like they're protected for when they get to that point or when they pass on. So that gives me hope, and it makes me feel really good.
Yeah, that does. I mean, if we can sit there, like when I was younger, I started planning my wedding at age 10. And it all mapped out. The magazine's cut and a poster board, and I rolled it up, but it was pre-planning. Okay. So, but if we could do that, like right at this age, I'm thinking I should be doing that, even if we know our health is not that good. I mean, when it comes to the, nobody knows their ending days, but you want to have that peace, and you want to know that there's going to be no hardships like after you go too. So, I mean, what age do you think would be a good age to start kind of prepping and having your ducks in a row, basically? Do you think you should do it like midstream in your 40s, 50s?
I think if you have assets, I think if you have any assets, then you should plan. I just have so many stories. I have a good friend that she's still going through the estate. Her brother had cancer. He died. He left no will,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Um, maybe there was a real old will. The sister was named the executor, and she's been working on this for 3 years, and it's just been a mess and caused a tremendous amount of family turmoil. But why would this person who has cancer and all these assets not make sure that he has it spelled out exactly how they should be distributed and how his estate should be handled? So it only puts a burden on whatever loved one you're putting that burden on. And that's not fair.
Yeah, it's not. So, like, I know it's no joke that I've been in the hospital a lot, but every time they come in, do you have a living will? Do you have a power of attorney? Which family member do you, you want to give all your information to? And I'm just like, no family member, I'm fine. And what was it the last time I was there? If we have to do the heart, you have one time, or we could make you actually come back alive. And I had to answer that question too, but I was like, boy, that's a lot of stuff I need to think about, and it's just like as the years go by and I see my health, generating into all these new things, I always want to have a backup plan. I don't have a will yet, but I know sometimes on paper in my journal, I'll write down, well, this is who I want to watch my son and raise my son. This is what I want for my daughter, but that doesn't count as a will. If you're in court, that's hearsay. I mean, it's my paper, my journal, but
Um,
those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nadine, you can do something as simple as in your case, because if something did suddenly happen to you, you definitely want your son and daughter protected. But you can just take a piece of paper and handwrite, this is my last will and testament, until you eventually want to do it in a more formal. That is legally fine.
Oh,
And
good. Good
oh
to know.
yeah, and handwrite it out. And I've had people do that, and it stands up, have somebody witness it, but just exactly what you want is perfectly acceptable. And at least that covers you in case something, just happens that you're not expecting.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. You never would want to expect you're gonna die, It could come all of a sudden. And you just didn't know. And even if you have the assets and you didn't get to planning, I would say, if you feel good now and you're in your mid life, I would sign up and do what you can. So that's all planned out, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, you've really woke me up on this interview and hearing this stuff too. It makes you think, and which is good, because it's all about planning and getting ready and stuff. Your book, I definitely want to read that. Does it also come in Audible? I know you said Kindle is there, paperback, hardcover. Do you have it on Audible yet?
It is on Audible. It's
Yay.
available on Audible,
Good, 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 good.
Kindle, and hardcover and paperback. And the publisher is Go to Publish.
Go to publish.
Yeah,
Okay.
and also there's some YouTube videos that actually give you a little 1 to 2 minute overview of the book. There's two of them. If you just put in Valle Egypt, Valle Egypt, it will come up on YouTube and give you a little
I
nice
did
2 minute
see that.
overview.
And I added that to the Facebook page today, saying getting ready to interview Kristen, and I put that commercial on, like I call it a mini insight to, it was the black and white one. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about, of course. But
right.
that is on there. I loved it as a photographer. I'm like, this is, done really good. I was I was very impressed with that. So your journey is going to keep going and going. Do you have future plans too? What's next in the world of Kristin Hetzer?
Oh, I have a lot of plans, but I'm not quite talking about them yet. I have another really interesting book that will be even more interesting, but I don't want to talk about it quite
Okay.
yet.
Okay, well, we're going to bring you back on.
Okay.
Well, that's good. It's always good to have those goals and move forward and everything. So, to be able to find you on social media, where do people go?
Um, I don't have an active social media on regarding Valley Egypt. Um I guess I have to say I'm not really active on social media. I'm
Okay.
not a social media, so I expect you can put it on your social media. And
Okay.
I know Go to Publish is developing social media for the book, Valley Egypt. And then I do have a website, Royal Palms Capital, and there is a tab about Valley Egypt. So you can go to www.royalpalmscapital.com, and there is a tab, Valley Egypt, that tells all about the book. It has the two trailers to the two different YouTube videos, and also it has all the places where you can get the book.
Oh, nice. Yay. I will definitely be adding that and everything. I want to thank you so much, Kristen. I hope I covered everything with you. Was there anything I missed?
I think you did a really nice job. Thank you.
So yeah, definitely. And before we go, I want to thank our other sponsors who make these shows possible. Of course, we have lifeonrecord.com, the interactive guest book. We have bridalshowsinc.com. So if you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area and planning a special event or get married, they have trade shows throughout the year to where you can meet those vendors, get the information and pricing. So check them out to find the next one. I think they're having one in January at the end of the month. So and then we have partytimetexas.com, your one-stop shop for all your vendors need, whether you need a DJ, band, caterer, venue, fire thrower, juggler, bounce houses for kids parties. We do it all. You can visit them once again at www.partytimetexas.com. Then we have Miles and Smiles. I love it. Miss Deborah Rose.com. She has investigating in her background, but she does the handwriting analysis and lipstick reading. And she's bringing that into the event industry, which is really cool. And she's accurate. She's good. My mouth dropped open. I was like, whoa. I've seen her at many events already, and she is wonderful. So check her out. Then we have Bryce Harney. He's traveling all around the United States. He is a magician and mind mentalist reader, and he's doing big corporate events, church events too. So check him out at www.brycemagic.com. Our last one is richmondpunch.net. He is a violinist, graduated from the Juilliard, has been playing for so many years and excellent at what he does. He was on a couple of Lifetime shows as background and has performed in front of 1 million people before. So check him out if you need a good violinist. Other than that, I want to say thank you so much for coming, Kristen. And we learned a lot. And I hope you have a wonderful it's coming up on Christmas and New Year's. So Merry Christmas. Happy
Merry
New Year's.
Christmas.
All right, guys. Until our next show, mwah, love and light. Bye bye.